Evan Russell is a young man who has just lost his mother to cancer. The day after the funeral, Evan goes to the bar where he works, although he's currently on leave. He's accompanied by his friend Tom. While Evan and Tom are talking, Evan steps away to use the restroom, but ends up getting into a fight with a customer who hit Tom with a bottle. Evan steps in to protect his friend and fights back, injuring the other man. Afterward, Evan and Tom continue drinking behind the bar, unaware that the bar manager had witnessed the incident. The manager confronts Evan and ultimately fires him. Previously, the manager had warned Evan about his behavior, though in this case, Evan had only tried to help his friend. On the way home, Evan vents his frustration to Tom. Once they arrive, Evan talks about looking for a new job. However, Tom suggests that Evan should travel somewhere to relieve his stress and clear his mind. The next morning, Evan departs for Italy. He arrives safely. After checking into a hotel, he meets two British travelers who soon become his companions. They invite Evan to join them on a coastal trip, suggesting they split the cost of gas to make the journey more affordable. They eventually arrive at the Italian coastline and stop at a seaside cafe. There, Evan notices a woman in a red dress sitting alone. He approaches her and strikes up a conversation. To his surprise, she asks him to spend time with her. Evan is caught off guard. He even gestures as if to confirm she's really talking to him. He finds her approach a bit too forward and politely declines, saying he's with friends that evening. He offers to meet the next day instead, but the woman insists on meeting that night. Evan, confused yet intrigued, pushes to reschedule for tomorrow. The following day, Evan decides to stay in Italy while the two British men leave for Amsterdam. His real reason is to meet the woman he saw the night before. Evan begins looking for work and lands a job at a local farm. The position includes housing and clear instructions on his responsibilities. While wandering around town, Evan runs into the same woman in red again. They formally introduce themselves, and Evan learns her name is Louise, a student conducting research in genetic evolution, a complex and highly academic field. They talk until late at night and eventually become intimate. The next morning, Louise wakes up before Evan, her face already beginning to morph into something monstrous. She leaves without saying a word. Later that day, they meet again at an ice cream shop. Evan confronts her about leaving without explanation, but Louise pretends not to know him or remember anything from the night before. Evan is understandably confused. Suddenly, Louise laughs. She was only joking. They continue spending time together. That night at Louise's place, she shares that she speaks several languages. While they're talking, Louise notices her leg changing in the mirror. She quickly grabs a syringe and tells Evan she needs to use the bathroom. Inside, she's on the verge of transforming into a werewolf-like creature, but she manages to inject herself in time. While Louise is in the bathroom, Evan looks around and notices that her books and posters are all related to vertebrate evolution and human anatomy. After she returns, Evan invites her for another walk. The next day, Evan suggests going to the beach, but Louise refuses, saying she's sensitive to sunlight. That evening, they go on a date at a cafe. During the date, Evan asks a waiter to take a photo of them. However, Louise looks away just as the picture is taken, making the photo come out awkwardly. She quickly changes the subject and asks Evan to talk about his family. This time, Evan becomes uncomfortable and doesn't want to share. He appears unsure and emotionally guarded. Louise becomes upset and leaves the cafe, heading to the beach. Evan follows her, apologizing as he walks behind her. Eventually, Evan opens up and explains why he hesitated to talk about his family. It becomes a sincere moment of vulnerability. Louise also opens up and reveals that she has heterochromia, a condition where her eyes are different colors. The next day, Louise is at work examining a patient. The patient comments on a strange smell, and although Louise smiles, she quickly realizes something's wrong. She checks and finds a wound near her underarm. Later, Evan meets Louise again and gives her a book as a gift. The book's cover features a figure with heterochromatic eyes, which resembles Louise. That evening, they go on another date at their usual spot. During the outing, Louise starts feeling strange. Her body begins to shift again, and she realizes she's about to transform. She excuses herself, telling Evan the clinic will open early the next day. On her way home, she's approached by a tourist with inappropriate intentions who misjudges her. As he gets closer, Louise transforms into a reptilian creature and attacks him. His body is found the next morning on the beach. That evening, Evan goes to Louise's house, but she abruptly ends their relationship. Evan asks for an explanation, but Louise refuses to provide one. After his shift at the farm, Evan confides in Angelo, the farm owner, that he was just dumped. At that moment, immigration officers arrive at the farm. Because Evan is working illegally, Angelo tells him to flee. In a state of panic, Evan decides to head to Louise's home. When he arrives, he hears something fall from inside the house. At that moment, Evan starts to panic, worried that something bad might have happened to Louise. He forces the door open, and for the first time sees Louise's other form. She is already halfway through transforming into a creature. She's struggling to reach the syringe, the same one she used earlier in the bathroom when she was about to change. Evan quickly steps in to help. He manages to grab the syringe and inject it into Louise's neck. Gradually, her body calms down and returns to its human form. Evan can only stand there watching, partly in shock and partly afraid. Once everything settles down and Louise is fully back to normal, Evan demands an explanation. At first, Louise refuses to talk, but eventually she begins to explain. The woman on the book cover, the one Evan had given her, was actually Louise herself. She had posed for that photo over 2,000 years ago. The eye condition she previously mentioned, heterochromia, is actually a hereditary trait passed down through generations, except that in her case it keeps getting passed down to herself. Louise suddenly asks Evan if he knows about embryonic stem cells. Evan vaguely understands, saying he's heard they're used for healing or as a form of anti-aging treatment. Louise then explains that, at the moment, her body is processing stem cells from her own embryo, allowing her to stay young and maintain her current age indefinitely. Hearing all of this, Evan is stunned. "Wait, so you're pregnant?" he asks. And yes, Louise is pregnant, and the child is Evan's. Apparently, during their first intimate encounter, Louise deliberately ensured she would conceive. After 1 week of pregnancy, her body resets to the physical age of around 20, with a DNA structure that's 50% new. This cycle lasts for 20 years. Once the time is up, she'll need new cells again. If she doesn't consume the embryo stem cells before then, her body begins shifting through the evolutionary forms of her ancient past. Evan and Louise then have a deep and difficult conversation about her current state and what it means for their future. Once things calm down again, Evan tries to come to terms with everything and tells her that he wants to stay with her regardless. But Louise firmly refuses. She says that tomorrow, she may go through a new transformation again, possibly into something terrifying. Evan doesn't back down. Instead, he insists on staying with her for whatever time she has left, even if it's only the next 24 hours. So they spend their remaining time together, walking and talking. Louise shares stories of her past, including how she's owned a boat, an apartment in Rome, and even a home in Bali. She's had many lives, but switching identities repeatedly has left her confused and tired. They eventually arrive at a church, where Louise's face has already started to change and a tail begins to emerge. Evan urges her to inject herself immediately. The injection contains temporary inhibitors that can hold off her transformation. He asks if there's any permanent way to stop it. Louise replies, yes, there is. If she truly falls in love with someone, her body will produce enough oxytocin to prevent the absorption of the embryo's stem cells. But if that happens, she'll lose her regenerative ability and become mortal. She will eventually die like any ordinary human. Evan asks her plainly, "Do you love me?" Louise doesn't answer directly. She says she doesn't know if she can give up immortality for someone she's just met. Still, Evan does everything he can to make her fall in love with him. They travel to Pompeii, Louise's original hometown. There, Louise opens up about her family. Her condition was inherited from her mother, and she has lived this way ever since. She warns Evan that tomorrow morning, as the sun rises, she will likely transform into a terrifying creature. But Evan isn't afraid. He's already in love with her and wants to be with her, no matter what. That night, Louise rests with her head on Evan's lap. He tells her stories about his life, about everything they've experienced together, and all the joy they've found lately. As Evan speaks, he begins to hear a strange sound, the same noise that comes before Louise changes. As the sun rises, Evan turns to her and finds that Louise hasn't transformed. she's still Louise, just as she is. After thousands of years of transformation and solitude, Louise has finally found the man she truly loves. Though it means giving up her immortality, she has become fully human, at last able to share a life, not endless time, with the one she loves, Evan. And that's where the film ends. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.